It's always so disappointing to see developers be forced to censor their games. Hearing about new PlayStation games being censored, though, isn't that surprising anymore because Sony loves to force censorship onto games, even if they're properly rated and the content within them is legal, and usually people are pretty quiet when it comes to censorship. A lot of people don't realize how much content companies like Sony and Valve force changes on, but it seems like everyone is talking about Martha is Dead being censored on PlayStation. I have a few things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month or supporting the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So starting with the Forbes article, it says they say all press is good press, and case in point, I'd never even heard of the game Martha is Dead until it started making headlines for Sony, demanding that parts of it be cut in order to release on PlayStation. The developer Wired Production issued a statement about the release on PS4 and PS5, clearly upset about the situation as it requires a delay for the physical release to make the changes. And the edits have not been required for an Xbox or PC release. Unfortunately, I talk about Sony a lot, and it's not about positive situations. A lot of the time when I'm talking about Sony and PlayStation, it's because of censorship. I truly feel enough people do not cover censorship in the gaming industry, and a lot of titles are censored now. But this is the newest situation, and a lot of people are talking about this, and I'm almost happy that people are talking about it because it means we're getting eyes on not only a game that a lot of people didn't know about, but we're also getting eyes on the gaming industry and problems that the industry has. But this is the statement the Wired Productions released. They said, Martha is Dead PlayStation update. Martha is Dead is a narrative adventure recommended for adult audiences only, with play consisting of potentially discomforting scenes and themes that may distress some players. Both Wired Productions and LKA have always been open and honest about Martha is Dead's content, with the sensitive depiction in play consistently communicated to the media since the game was announced in 2019. This is actually a game I had heard of quite a long time ago, maybe even when they first announced it, and because they didn't have a release date at the time, it just kind of slipped into the back of my mind. But when I heard that they were censoring it, I remembered this game instantly. It says this content is also flagged clearly and repeatedly within the game itself before play begins. It is with regret that we have to modify the experience on the PS5 and PS4 versions, with some elements no longer playable. This is so disappointing to hear. I personally don't buy that many games on PlayStation anymore because of reasons like this. They censor and tone down so much content. They force developers to change so much about their games, and it's really disappointing to hear. And there are other platforms that do the same. But unfortunately, Sony's gone kind of crazy over the past few years. At first, they were just censoring games with questionably aged characters, let's call them. A lot of anime games, a lot of Japanese games were censored and toned down. And developers were told you have to age them up, basically. You have to change settings. And then, about a year ago, we heard that Sony was starting to censor violent content. But, finishing this before I show off that article, it says that, of course, they have to delay the physical release of it. It is regret we had to modify the experience. After 4 years of passion and hard work, developer LKA now requires extra time to make these unplanned changes. Martha is Dead, as a result, will still launch digitally on both PS5 and PS4 on Thursday, February 24th, but the physical retail release will be delayed to yet an undisclosed date, although we anticipate this only to be a small number of weeks. The PC and Xbox versions of Martha is Dead are both unaffected by these developments and will launch with the full unedited gameplay as planned. I'm glad to hear that at least we can experience the game on other platforms uncensored in all of its glory, the way the developers envisioned their game. If you want to buy this game, Do not buy it on the PlayStation 4. Do not buy it on the PlayStation 5. You are going to be supporting censorship, and you can still play it. Just play the PC version, the Xbox version. Luckily, there are other ways to play it. But I'm so glad in a way that people are talking about this situation because it's bringing eyes on censorship in the industry. But now people know not to support this censored and toned down version. I'm actually surprised a lot of news outlets and a lot of game journalists have picked up the story because usually they're silent when it comes to censorship. Usually they don't care. And some of them even say, it's good this game was censored. We don't need this type of content in games. But last year, right around the same time actually, we had found out that PlayStation was starting to edit violent content. This is an article from Game Pressure. It was from February 2021. It says Sony has decided to take radical steps on the issue of violent scenes in some video games. The latest reports presented on a Japanese website suggest that the company is asking developers to remove violent scenes from their games, and that's what we're seeing with Martha is Dead. It is a horror game. It's got quite a bit of violence, quite a bit of gore. The scene in question, from what everyone understands, is there's a scene where a character is laying down on a bed, and it's a mini game, and basically you have to slice their face off. You have to slice the first layer of their skin off, and that is what Sony doesn't like, and that is what Sony is telling them is unacceptable in their games, which is absolutely ridiculous, because first of all, horror isn't a genre for the faint-hearted. You're supposed to feel uncomfortable and nervous and even scared, and that's the atmosphere they're trying to give audiences. If you don't feel comfortable playing that game, that's okay, but don't take away the experience from other people. PlayStation has other games that are even more graphic that aren't censored, like Mortal Kombat. Where is all of the outrage and the censorship demands there? These people pick and choose what they're mad about. They were mad about this from Mortal Kombat 11, but oh no, a horror game now in 2022 has a scene where you have to slice someone's face off? That is just completely unacceptable. It's ridiculous that people don't see how dumb they look and how ridiculous they look when they complain about one game having a little too much violence, but they don't complain about something like Mortal Kombat 11, which is much more graphic. I wanted to also read just a couple of these statements here. There are some people in this thread saying this is the scene for everyone complaining. Watch and tell me you'd be fine playing it yourself. Yes, I would be fine playing it myself because it's a video game. It is fictional. It is not real. It's a video game. It's as simple as that. There's no reason to be outraged about a video game, and there's no reason to censor a video game. Clearly, the game is marked for adult audiences only. There's a bunch of content warnings before you start playing the game, and as they said before those graphic scenes start, they do give a warning on screen as well. These developers are doing the very best they can, but snowflakes like you are going to complain about whatever they create if it's not an Animal Crossing. People are saying things like, I bet some of you were those people back then. We tried to warn you when they censored anime games, yet you condemned us as it's not a big deal. Well, it's not a big deal. Watch a slasher movie. Toffer Team said, it's sad to say, but I'm not surprised at all coming from Sony. Unfortunately, it is true. When I hear about censorship, I instantly think of Sony, I think of Valve, I think of all of the games over the years that they've censored, and unfortunately there are people commenting here saying, when did Sony start censoring games? They started censoring games years ago, and more people have been talking about it and bringing eyes to the situations by sharing posts, videos, threads on social media when games are censored, but there's always going to be people who don't know about the censorship and don't know how far censorship goes in things like games. It's always unfortunate to see games censored, but luckily there are going to be ways to play this title, so if you want to play it and you want to support the developers, buy it on PC, buy it on Xbox, but do not buy it on the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.